There is a defensive edition in Coral Gables to talk about, as we will for the next 60 minutes with all of you. Comments and questions are welcome, as always, here on Hurricanes Live for a 377th edition with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Looking good in the bright orange. I can't tell because of the microphone being front and center. Cane forever. For life. Okay.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Good to be here. And yeah, I was just going through my wardrobe, and I was like, you know what? I've worn a lot of green Miami stuff recently, and I do have some orange, black, and white as well. So I figured I would do that. And hey, it's matching the Chiron and everything today. So yeah, great to be here. Good to be back. And talking Miami Hurricanes. So let's get into it.
Well, we will talk about the defensive lineman moving from East Lansing and some territory you're fairly familiar with down to close to South Beach there. Simeon Barrow from Michigan State. Your thoughts about how he fits and adds some productivity?
Yeah, man. First of all, we needed defensive tackles, especially after Jared Harrison-Hunt decided to leave, and he was going to be a rotational guy. And I think that you have an upgrade here with Simeon Barrow. So one of a few defensive linemen that Miami is still chasing in the portal. And he's a guy who played for Michigan State just up there in East Lansing. So, take I-96 West for a little bit, and you'll run into Lansing. And everything, but Lansing and East Lansing are right next to each other, guys. So whatever, state capital of the state of Michigan, in case you did not know, is Lansing. So just sharing that, because we would think maybe it's Detroit or something. It's not. Anyways, Simeon Barrow is a guy who is going to fill in the snaps for Jared Harrison-Hunt. Is a guy who can get after the quarterback a little bit. He has good size as he comes in. And again, you see the production, 18 and a half tackles for loss, 10 and a half sacks in his career with a couple ancillary stats and, 110 tackles. So this is a guy who's played a lot of football for Michigan State. He will bring a veteran presence to the defensive line. So you're not necessarily replacing Jared Harrison-Hunt as a 5th or 6th year guy with a second-year guy or anything like that. So, this is a good get. Helps to shore up that position. There are another couple guys, again, along the defensive line that Miami would love to add to the cadre for this upcoming year. I think that this is a good get. I think this is a needed get because you needed at least one there. And I saw CJ West, one of the other big metaphorical and literal defensive tackles in the portal, went to Indiana. I don't get it. Hey, but if he likes it, I love it for him. But in terms of Miami, Simeon Barrow coming on down from East Lansing, and I think that will be a good addition to the group. Doesn't necessarily really change the temperature or move the needle that much. But you need guys who you can trust to play a good number of snaps along the defensive line at the top of the roster, so you're not necessarily an injury away from having to play somebody up a year early, and you might then not have the kind of experience and production that you're looking for. But a good get. Great job by the staff to continue to optimize this roster moving into the fall, or as we move towards summer, heading into a fall that needs to be a very big season for the Hurricanes.
The other defensive lineman, much acclaimed, who was out there, decided to go from TCU to Oklahoma, Dom Williams. I think he had interest in Miami, and there was some communication there.
Yeah, mutual interest, but I don't think that he took a visit. And without a visit, what are we really talking about? There is, I heard his name, and I don't remember, but there is isn't there a defensive end from Tennessee who's 6'5", 260 or something?
Tyler Barron.
Him.
He took a stop at Louisville.
I mean, he took a little vacation at Louisville. He didn't play because he had a shoulder thing. That's who it was. Yeah. That's a guy that I would like to add with multiple position versatility, great size. And I know that we do have a pretty good defensive edge group. But I would enjoy go back up to the top with his measurables. Yeah, 6'5", 260. Sign me up. Like, yeah. And then I think that at that size, he can play outside. He could even flex inside. I mean, just look at the numbers, guys. 10.5 tackles for loss and 6 sacks last year, 27 and 13.5 respectively for his career. And then, just all the other things. Had a fumble recovery for 6 last year. Passes defended are going to be passes knocked down, 101 tackles in his career. Like, yeah, this is a guy who would definitely continue to add like playable talent that you would want to have loads of if you're trying to push for championships. And I mean that the division is no longer because we're going divisionless for the ACC, but if you're thinking division, conference, national, things like that, like, yeah, this would be another guy that Miami could add. Any team would love to add. But in terms of Miami, because like that's the team that I talk about, that's my alma mater and everything, like centering Miami to it, he could leave that dirty, nasty, whatever, Rocky Top orange and get some great, lovely South Beach kind of orange, like I'm modeling right now. So I would be down for that as well. Multiple teams are looking to add him to their rosters as well. But yeah, Tyler Barron, that's another guy that would really put the defensive line in I think a really, really, really good spot, especially, like I said, wanting him to play outside more often than not, and him wanting to play outside more often than not. But like, imagine just walk down this road, this hypothetical path with me, guys. Ruben Bain next to Tyler Barron inside on a pass rushing down with whomever on the a Mesidor and Marquise Lightfoot, because everyone, he flashed in the spring and everything. Imagine that is your third down pass rushing package. Like, Ruben Bain abuses interior offensive linemen on the regular. And then you want to put him on a twist. Hey, maybe they have Bain and Barron twist inside. Maybe you go tight end or tackle end stunts on the outside. Like, imagine the possibilities are endless, guys. But I mean, hey, again, Simeon Barrow, bang, got him already. Love that, adding to the already great transfer class that Miami's been building. Tyler Barron, I think, would fit really well. And I know that was a name that people will probably ask about. And hopefully, as we go through towards the summer, that the roster continues to get optimized, because this is all in season, guys. Got to be. So go get them. Let's go win.
For you older folks like me, if they get Tyler Barron, they could have a new version of the Miami Killer Bees with Barron and Barrow.
That's right. Yeah.
That was the Miami Dolphins defense with Budzinski and the Lyle and Glenn Blackwood, the two safeties, and Brodzinski, and they had bees all over. Kim Bocamper, Bob Baumhauer. Yeah, bees all over the place for Miami in the early 80s.
And ironically, like random, but whatever, Brodzinski and Bocamper both have sports bar chains down here in South Florida now. It's a random aside, but true.
I visited one of those.
Yeah.
Quite a long time ago, and I forget which one. I don't remember Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, Falconer TRX super sticker. Thank you so much. Falconer made his appearance in the Florida State show and made his presence known and got things fired up over there quite a bit. And
I believe that.
And yes, he did. I had so much fun taking a dip in the FSU pool.
Nice. Before I go further, and I love Falconer, and he said, yeah, it felt good for a dip, but not good enough to go back. Understandable, hey, and everything. Want to give a shout out to my guy Gibson, man. I went to a work event on Monday morning, and was just there, kind of talking to people, networking, just doing what I was doing, and it's like, hey man, you look and sound like this guy on YouTube who talks about Miami Hurricanes, and I was like, I am him. Like, so we spoke and everything. He was really, really complimentary for both of us. So I did extend those acceptance of those things. So to Gibson and everything, man, hey, it was really nice to meet you. I said I was going to remember you, shout you out on the show. Have done this for, other people that I've run into in the wild down here in South Florida, whether it's, at whichever secret day job or even just in Publix. I've seen people like, "Yo, hey, you're Cam." I'm like, yeah. So I just want to shout that out. Like I said, he was very complimentary for both yourself and myself, Mark. And I wanted to just honor that and respect that and everything. And ran into him and had, like I said, a really nice conversation. So I appreciate that support. Sometimes like we have the chat and everything. And like, I know that this lives on YouTube, but podcasts when you do media sometimes, or media like this, you do it and you put it out and it's like, it almost looks, or in my brain, is like when Mike TV in the original Willy Wonka gets transmitted from the stand into the television, and it's like the little particles over the air, like this is what I imagine. It's like we do it and it just goes out, and you don't ever really know if it hits with people that don't live in your computer on the internet or anything like that. But getting to meet people in real life always just is really cool and really special. And like I said, it was a great conversation. So again, Gibson, pleasure to meet you, my brother. Really great time, and I appreciate it.
Gibson, thank you for approaching Cam, and I appreciate the compliments. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your support.
Yeah, and that's his first name, by the way. So just wanted to, yeah.
Yes, you're not the last name sort of guy, and so thanks for clarifying that. Yeah. Falconer has a question here. Can the current young defensive backs on the team grow enough, or does Miami need a transfer?
When we got Diani Hill last week, that gives Miami 4 guys I think that they're comfortable with at corner. I would still like to see one more if you can get somebody of quality, but yeah, at some point you do need to develop these guys. Like the younger Brown brother who's still on the roster, like I think he was the one with the higher ceiling anyway, even from when they were kids. So like that's a thing where you're going to lean into that. I think that not Jaden Davis. What is his name? The other 22 or 2, Daryl Porter. There we go. Daryl Porter is a guy who's solid and whatnot. And I think that there is some talent behind them. You have Jaden Harris, from Georgia, the safety who stepped in when Cam Kinchens was out, and when James Williams missed a couple snaps here and there. So that's a guy that's growing into a bigger role, I think. You have another couple guys on this roster that can grow into larger roles. I don't necessarily know that they're going to grow into like starring roles this year, but the potential is there. And yeah, you do have to balance organically growing the guys that you recruit, like developing them into star level players versus just going and getting mercenaries at the top of the roster to plug in at spots. But yeah, I think they can grow enough. I think it would really be enough for 25. I would feel better if there was one more transfer for this year, personally, but that's just my viewpoint.
So Cam, speaking of not knowing and then conjecturing and then sometimes having it confirmed who's out there watching, as is being noted here by our buddy Almighty Finn, our Florida State contingent on the previous show. Everybody check it out, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time. They came across your rant last week about Florida State's approach not being sustainable. And of course took exception to that. And they took exception to that.
I'm sure that they would, but like if they're being real, right, real and honest about it, they would prefer to have had better success in high school recruiting than they've had. And I don't think that they're in a position to have sustainable success, especially when I went down the roster and every notable player except for Akeem Dent and Renardo Green, who started on that team last year, was a transfer. I went down the list on the show last week, guys. I didn't make it up. It's literally what happened. And look, did they get those guys and then use them well and all those kind of things? Yeah, true. But there is there are going to be levels to performance when you take a mercenary approach. And I get that they had to take a mercenary approach because they're not doing as well as Miami or other schools in high school recruiting in the macro, right? Because I know that this dude here, Almighty Finn, I know that he's sitting here watching me saying, well, Florida State beat Miami for 5-star wide receiver Hakeem Williams. Great. True. Absolutely did. And who else? Miami let Patrick Payton go. Now, that's proven to be maybe a little bit of a bad idea, right? But when Miami wanted Pat Payton from Miami Northwestern, he was going to come to Miami. Miami took a different path, and then y'all got our sloppy seconds. And then, look, he's a great player. And, that was a really dumb decision. But y'all didn't beat us head up for him. There's very few guys that you beat us head up for of high quality, right? So, that's where the pivot to the other kind of modality had to happen, whether it's Miami, whether it's somebody else. I mean, hey, it wasn't even us with Travis Hunter, right? But, well, that was a one-off and everything. And da. Sam McCall don't even go there anymore. And he was supposed to be a 5-star and everything, right? I mean, just there's enough of it. And I've said it for years. And this is giving y'all free game, and I don't even know why I'm doing it. But Florida State plays way too many away games in recruiting. You have an inflated sense of self, right? That's not necessarily been borne out to be true. Last season's success notwithstanding. And then take all these swings at these big national guys and putting all this time into that, forsaking others that could be gotten. And then those guys go somewhere else. Nicholas Harbor. I know y'all put all kinds of time into Nick Harbor. We did too. Why would you not? He's 6'7", 290 pounds and running 10 flat in the 100 or whatever. You know what I mean? He's a guy that you would do that for, but then you don't get him. And then you have not gone after other guys because you did that. And then now what do you get? Plan B, C, D, and E. And then to cover that, where you get plan B, C, D, and E, we're going to take some time maybe to develop. Now let's go get a mercenary squad. I am not saying anything that is opposite of the truth. You probably just don't like it because orange, green, white. You know what I mean? But if you were really being honest with yourselves, you'd see that there's way more truth to what I said than maybe you think. And I know James. And I know James wants to, because look, I went to Miami. I didn't play football. We know that. But I went to and I graduated from. We know that he went there. We know that he played there. And he's going to be staunchly supportive of that institution in Tallahassee. As well he should be. That's his alma mater. That was his hood. Those are his people and everything. But when it comes to the facts of the matter, all of the emotion can be had. But the facts are still the facts. And I'm even going to take it in a different direction, Almighty Finn, that you might not even see coming. I can have all of the emotion about Miami and Florida State and da. But you know what the facts are that I have to live with? Last 3 years, loss. All the emotion. I hate, oh my God, and there was this and there was that. And 4 years ago, we beat them by 6 touchdowns. And 2 years after that, we lost them by 6 touchdowns. And filth, floor, and filth, and fire and brimstone. End of the day, the result was the result. And I can go back and we can talk about when we beat y'all by 6 touchdowns. And Jalen Phillips had that interception tipped off of Jordan Travis, and he's crawling back to the sideline and everything. And you can have the emotion about that. But at the end of the day, what was the result? Miami won, right? All of these things are true. And I know that, hey, man, I know that they're going to try to take a different viewpoint because they want to be optimistic. I know they're going to take a different viewpoint and say, well, they're going to, spin this and they're going to take that and they're going to, opine this and opine that. Again, I try to come at things really pragmatically. And I know that James wants to say otherwise, but in his heart of hearts, if he were to get on this microphone right now, the things that he would say, I know to be true, right? Is yes, we went out and bought that team for the last 2 years, including the undefeated team. And I'm unsure what the level of success will be this year without all those top line players. That would be the first statement. And the second statement would be, though I love Florida State, Garnet and Gold, and all the players who played there, I wish that this staff did better in high school recruiting. I guarantee it. And I dare and defy, James, if you're watching, to come in here and then lie and say that those two things are not true. Please.
Let's see if I can keep track of everything I collected in my brain to respond in various directions. One would be in a very general way, and I elevate you and others way beyond this, but there's still a thread of this that exists in all of us, and that's, of course, bias. So there is a level of bias in all of us. I don't think it can be extracted 100% from any of us. So when I promote myself to be unbiased, it's with the understanding and the explanation that that's not completely true. I do my best. So I think that exists for all of us to some degree. Also, something that hit me the other day, just in general, again, regarding rivalries and opposing fan bases. And I think we're doing this at a high level. So this isn't just your typical, uh, tit for tat on Twitter or X, is that what would be a fascinating experiment that is impractical would be if you had to take Florida State's history, current team, everything to do with Florida State, if it was completely juxtaposed, regardless of the argument, whether we're talking about the series history or the national championships or the current state of the programs or the future, whatever it was, if the scenarios could be juxtaposed, you would obviously find ways to defend or have an optimistic view of your situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, like,
and they would as well.
There are, this is a good enough rivalry because, like, it does go back and forth. And that's another thing that, like, everyone will admit. Like, this is not, I mean, the situation I'm going to say has clearly changed because, the shit show in Alachua County. But, like, this is not Florida, Kentucky, when, for 34 years in a row, like, just, it's the little cousin who's like, maybe today, and then, like, superstar comes in and is just like, cool, line it up real quick. But yeah, because they won 30 whatever years in a row, right? Miami and Florida State is not that. So there are talking points on both sides, right? But I mean, I was focusing narrowly on performance this year, coming off of what I view to be a mercenary team, and the viewpoint or methodology through which they are going to, or they seem to be constructing their roster. But, like, yeah, there are, but and that's why I also offered the results part of that conversation, because there are counterfact, like, hey, they have beaten us 3 times in a row, regardless on these recruiting rankings and and you think Mario's a better coach than Mike Norvell, 3-0, or sorry, Mario Cristobal 0-3. Say what you want. So, like, there is a measure of back and forth with it and everything. And that's the other thing that James does really well. He loves pivoting from the point of conversation and bringing in other stuff. Because, again, I'm not saying holistically, like, that they have no reason to exist as a program and, like, I didn't say any of that. I'm not taking away that they won a championship, in 2013. I didn't say none of that. It's like, oh, well, we had Jameson. That's better than any quarterback. Who mentioned that? Oh, well, Dalvin Cook, who mentioned that? Oh, you're talking about recruiting battles right now, and you want to bring up Dalvin Cook? You know what I mean? Like, that's another thing. But I mean, like, yeah, are there points to be made on both sides? Absolutely, 100%. And for them right now, the big joker is, regardless of all that shit you're talking, Cam, about how we're building a roster and who's playing for us, in the last 3 years, nay on some 1,000 however many days, y'all have not beat us. To which I say, you know what? y'all have a point because y'all have beaten us 3 years in a row and however many days in a row running. So, yeah.
So it shouldn't surprise you that while you stand here on the spectrum and James stands over here on the end of the spectrum, that I'm somewhere in between. Now, which side, I don't even know which way I'm leaning, but it's pretty close to the middle.
Mhm.
That shouldn't be a big surprise. And this is the reason why, not because I'm trying to appease either one of you, although I do think you're very smart people that know football and know your rosters much better than I do. So you're gonna be able to persuade me in a way because you have much more in-depth knowledge again of your situations. However, most of my middle ground has to do with this. We can't see the future, and therefore we don't know if it's sustainable at Florida State. And they also, while they did bring in, as you mentioned and ran down last week, all their star players and the majority of their impact players out of the transfer portal, we are in uncharted territory. So if this was 2020 and we were talking about a particular coach and staff's approach, I would be able to go back through college football history over the previous 20 years and say, that's not going to work because look at this situation and that situation, and like I typically do. However, we are in uncharted territory. So I don't know what the most successful formula is going to look like going forward in regards to the percentage of a roster that's built from the transfer portal versus high school recruiting. And then there's also that component of the transfer portal when you're getting younger players that may be able to contribute for 2 or 3 years versus a one-stop, 1-year gap player. So those are two different situations.
True. But like I said before, the real transfer portal thing to make it sustainable is if you replace like with like from somewhere, right? Florida State in this recruiting cycle from the transfer portal has not landed the quality or quantity of players that they did previously. And coupled with, middling kind of high school recruiting classes, what did they end up with last year? Team rankings 24. ACC, when I click 23 commits. Okay, and then nationally they were what, 12? That's actually a little bit better than I even thought. Okay, maybe they're taking a step in the right direction. I don't think that those guys are going to make a number top level impact this year, but that's better than I even thought. So good on them. But I just think that there are gaps. That's all. And I think that we're going to see that play out on the field this year. I'm not saying that they're going, and that's the other thing. I don't think that the change is going to be 12-0 to 4-8. I do not think that. 4 losses? Yeah. I think that's entirely in the realm of possibilities, which is a big difference from 12-0. All I'm saying.
We talked about, and you highlighted the NFL draft class from Miami from a negative standpoint, from a positive standpoint, or to flip it again, actually a negative standpoint for 2024. Who's going to be the most missed player that departed this team?
Cameron Kinchins. Not even close. I mean, James Williams is more of a physical presence, or was in the secondary and everything, but you had a first-team All-American 2 years ago, the player who led all of college football in interceptions over the last 2 years, the heart and soul of the defense, the defensive quarterback. Now, he was able to let Kiko Mawanoa lead a little bit more as the middle linebacker, but still, everybody said it, as Cam goes, this defense goes, or went last year, and yeah, I mean, are there more physically talented guys? Yeah, I think that Leonard Taylor was more physically talented. He clearly had issues with his motor and motivation and consistency of play. James Williams, my God, is way more physically talented than Cam Kinch could ever dream of being. Even a guy like a Tyler Harrell, like he wasn't really good, but I mean, if healthy, that 4.3 flat straight line speed again can play up athletically in a way that Cam Kinchin is just kind of average in terms of being like a professional athlete, right? I know you're looking at me like, well, Cam, you need to lose a bunch of weight and you're rotund. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. But in terms of like NFL athletes, Cam Kinch's is pretty regular, but his impact on Miami Hurricanes in so many ways was just incredibly valuable, even admitting that he made some mistakes. That Georgia Tech game, bit on that double move. There was another couple times that he, took the eye candy and he went for the first, they're running like double posts and he went for the first post and then the second post gets behind him and goes to score. Not saying he was a perfect player. Not at all. But yeah, he's the guy off of the roster that I think Miami will miss the most. You get a reasonable facsimile replacement of Colby Young with Sam Brown. A little bit shorter, not as good as contested catches, but somebody who'd had more than 800 yards last year coming in from Houston. So you replace pretty much like with like, not exactly the same, but I think that the positive trait profiles are there. In terms of running back, like you upgrade from Henry Parrish, like all due respect to Henry Parrish, like getting Damian Martinez, first team all Pac-12, over two guys who got drafted in the top 3 rounds at running back, by the way. You know what I mean? Like, so that even validates that more. I think that you've seen guys come in and replace some of the other guys outgoing. You could potentially shift around the offensive line to cover for Javion Cohen. You already have your replacement for Matt Lee in Zach Carpenter, who came from Indiana, things like that. So, I think that the only answer here for me is Cam Kinchins as being the one to miss the most. Again, admitting that there were other good players, other players who played 4 and 5 and 600 snaps, and also admitting that Cam Kinchins is nobody's perfect player and made mistakes along the way. But he has to be the answer there.
We take your comments and questions, everyone. And Cam is so gracious to join us each and every Wednesday, 7:00 Eastern time. Bring it when we talk about comments and questions. We are wide open. So let me throw this one out there until I see something from the chat. Who do you think is doing the best job as an assistant coach on this staff?
Ooh. Good question. I think Lance Guidry, defensive coordinator and now safeties coach as well. Played safety and coach safety, on his way up the ranks. So fine with him taking a position and with coordinating, but faced some challenging times last year head on, adapted his process. Even we started going, having to deal with a lot of injuries, especially along the defensive line. That's where that 3-3-5 kind of started coming in, and you started having the same Mawanoa and Cloyd, all starting at linebacker together. And the thing for me, man, like pretty much invariably throughout the year, had a really good feel for when the team needed him to call a defensive timeout. And during that timeout, having the right answer. And I point again to that Clemson game. I've said it many times, but in the fourth quarter, down late, called a timeout, got into the right defense, made a stop, boom, boom, whatever, go to overtime. Before that fourth in the ball game, in overtime, called that timeout in the press box in my same row next to, Brandon Odoi and Brian the Beast London, and we're talking about it. And I said, hold on, wait. The most recent data point that we have was about 8 minutes ago. This man called a timeout. He was dialed into what they were doing, so he'd watched the film, done the opponent study, knew what their tendencies said, dialed up the right thing, and we got the stop. So I'm going to trust that he's going to do the same thing, and did the same thing. And then when Corey Flagg Jr. was there, like trusty Trent, just doing his job. And then, Cade Klubnik, who should have given that ball, by the way, that probably would have scored, but trying to do hero ball, and he stepped out to the left, and then all of a sudden he saw Flag right there break down and he said, oh, shoot. And that was 100% the call from Guidry, where you crash down, you scrape over, and if you scrape to that outside gap, I guarantee you, quarterback's going to be there. We're going to get the stop and win the game, and did. And I just think that he's dialed into the culture here. I think, he did a great thing by turning down LSU or the pursuit that was there, because, I know that they were trying to make inquiries, and he's a Louisiana native and everything. So interesting to see what he does necessarily on the recruiting trail, because he kind of just took over after a die left to the NFL on that. But heading right now, I think I would say Guidry, honorable mention Mirabal with the offensive line. And I mean, I think that there's a lot of coaches doing a lot of good work. I'm thinking Matt Merritt at the running back position already making his presence felt. Hall of Fame defensive end Jason Taylor obviously is a monster on the trail, and you can see guys getting better, like Ruben Hurricane Bain through last year. I think that there's a lot of guys. Derek Nicholson, on the recruiting trail and just developing these guys. I think that there are a lot of guys doing a lot of good work. Not saying that everything is perfect, not saying that everyone is the best assistant ever and they're going to get hired for a head coaching thing, because I know that the comments, especially when you get Florida State and Florida fans in there, they try to take things and extrapolate them to the terminal end of whatever. No, I'm not saying all that, but I think there are a lot of guys doing good jobs. But if I had to list the number one option, it'd be Lance Guidry.
Folks, we have a Amazon link. It's in the description section of all the videos. And when you shop on Amazon, just please use the link that we provide. And it's the same shopping experience. It still keeps track of your account, still recognizes you. And I don't know how it does it, but it does it. Believe me, and you will see. And you help contribute to the channel. The last I checked, I saw this statistic several months ago that Amazon is worth $1.8 trillion. If they just put that money to work, who knows, that probably is already $2.5 trillion, because the interest you could just earn on investments from that kind of gross money. So, hey, when you spend $100 at Amazon, and don't get me wrong, you don't have to spend $100 at Amazon. This is an example. Hey, you kick us at the Voice of College Football $3, $4. So please consider what we have in the description section with the Amazon link. If Cam Ward fulfills his potential, I'm talking about reasonable potential, he will be the best Miami quarterback since when?
I think the answer is, well, the easy answer. Well, no, not even. It depends on what timeline you want to look at. If we're looking really close, I know that he ended up getting injured at the end of the year and made the next year wasn't as the high notes weren't as high, but De'Aaron King's season, his first year here, pretty darn good. After that, Brad Kaya, career leading passer, by the way, at the University of Miami, just throwing that out there, was pretty good for a college quarterback. No, he didn't have the professional, neither of them had professional careers or anything. Yeah. But in terms of at Miami, I would say, yeah. De'Aaron King, Brad Kaya. If you wanted to say, okay, we're extending it further than that, I mean, Stephen Morris was right before Brad Kaya, but they were analogous in terms of their accomplishments. They were very different players because Stephen Morris has one of the strongest arms that's ever existed on God's green earth. Past that, I mean, yeah, you're really looking back to, when I was in college and Ken Dorsey, because there was a whole lot of Ja'Cory Harris, I think that he seemed to me maybe a little bit undervalued over the course of time. Had a lot of different offensive coordinators, but when he was with Mark Whipple, man, Ja'Cory Harris was darn good. So I mean, he would be in that pantheon since 2000 of, Ken Dorsey, Ja'Cory Harris, Brad Kaya, De'Aaron King, of and I mean, look, I know that it ended poorly, and I know that he's shuttled off elsewhere. But that one season of Tyler Van Dyke, boy, after De'Aaron King got injured in 21, I mean, yeah, that COVID season with De'Aaron King, pretty damn elite. That 21 season from Tyler Van Dyke, I know it was not consistent. I know it did not continue. But, woo, buddy, that was something special. So, I mean, if Cam Ward lives up to really either of those kind of performances, now he's a different kind of player than both, but yeah, he's at the top of the list, of recent quarterbacks. And I mean, as we go, there's been some decent quarterbacks. No, they haven't been everybody's All-American. No Miami quarterback is had that Vinny Testaverde Heisman season or anything. They haven't had the Cam Newton legendary season where, he just was the best player around, and it wasn't even close. And he was just like, hop on my back, boys. I got this whole entire program. No, we have not had a quarterback like that. But yeah, Cam Ward could easily be one of the best quarterbacks that we've had in the last quarter century if he continues to play to the level that he has shown, and if he's able to dial some things in and improve his performance. And again, I'm going to make the comparison because of the performance scenario, not the player and player type. Okay. So what was done, not necessarily saying they're the exact same person, but at Incarnate Word and at Washington State, Cam Ward did not necessarily have as much talent around him as he has in Coral Gables. And so he had to increase his risk profile on some of the plays that he made because he had the talent. So I need to do more to try to make something happen. In a similar way to what Patrick Mahomes did in college, with less talent around him, knowing, hey, I am the guy who has the talent, and so I need to maybe play a little bit more recklessly to try to hit the ceiling of my talent, because if I do that, then maybe I can elevate those around. And that came out through the NFL draft process. They were like, yo, you're kind of reckless with the football and these things. And Mahomes was like, yeah, no, I had to, because my offensive line wasn't necessarily the greatest and my receivers were okay, but I had to kind of push the envelope, and I had to try to get to the margins of what performance looked like to try to elevate everybody around. And I think that in a similar way, Cam Ward also had to do some of those things at Incarnate Word in Washington State. But now if he reels in some of that, pushing the boundaries performance, and still can execute all these other things at a high level, yeah, I think he can be one of the best quarterbacks, or the best quarterback Miami has had in 25 years. But as I've said with all these other guys along the way, he needs to do it on Saturdays coming up this fall. And hopefully you tune in, and hopefully he does. And then it'll be fun to be in the press box and talking about great things instead of seething for days after stupid things like the Georgia Tech game.
The best I remember of De'Aaron King in a Miami uniform was on a Thursday or Friday night in Raleigh-Durham against NC State.
Yeah.
When it seemed like everything he threw was dropped in a bucket. And on that particular night, Mark Pope and D. Wiggins decided to hang on to the throws for the most part. And I think they won 44-41, and he had a ridiculous stat line, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, that, and I just always remember the one throw he made that game in the corner to Mike Harley, and then Harley ran up the stairs into the stands, because they're very close to the field then. But that was at North Carolina State. 31 for 41 for 430 yards and 5 touchdowns passing. And I didn't even get to his rushing numbers, but yeah, and it was 44-41 Hurricanes win final. Yeah, that was pretty peak. Not gonna lie, that was pretty good to see. But I mean, like, dude, against Louisville, 18 out of 30 for 325 and 3 tutties, only 50%, but 4 touchdowns against Pittsburgh. Obviously, that game was the best, and 16 for 24 with 3 touchdowns and a 48-0 blowout of Duke. And that was the week before the game where we couldn't stop counter, and those 2 running backs are still running. But hey, yeah, he did a lot of good things, man. So I know that, like, yeah, asking that question thing is like, okay, we haven't had like a championship caliber quarterback really lead this team since Ken Dorsey, but we've had above average quarterback play. Hasn't been great, but like above average in a couple of instances along the way. And I think that Cam Ward can add himself to that list and maybe put himself to the top of the list, depending on how he performs.
One other note from me along those lines and another question would be, unfortunately for all of you, Malik Rosier started and played for the team that had the best opportunity to do something special. So you merged the worst quarterback with probably the best team.
Indeedly doodly, and I left that name off the list intentionally and everything. But yeah, I mean, look, sometimes you have to have game managers, and Malik Rosier's ability to run was a very big weapon that year that got things started against Notre Dame. There was another couple of games when that was really integral and things like that. But again, I still just wonder what that team could have been had Brad Kaya stayed for 4 years, because I think that would have been an improved quarterback performance.
Almost undoubtedly, they would have entered the ACC championship game undefeated, because they barely lost at Pitt to Kenny Pickett, and obviously they couldn't score in that game, couldn't throw the ball. On the topic of Brad Kaya, did he not turn out to be a impact quarterback, starting quarterback in the NFL because A, he was never going to be good enough, B, he was not developed, or C, he should have come back for his senior season?
I think he would have had a better chance had he come back for a senior season, but as happened to a friend of mine, Ivan McCartney, who went to Miramar High School and then West Virginia, he was found to have like an issue with his back when he went through like the NFL medicals and everything. So a small thing, like he can live a full and healthy life and everything, but like in terms of being a top level athlete, it was an issue. And yeah, that just kind of was it. And I mean, he was moderately athletically talented. I mean, he's a big, strong guy, but I mean, like for an NFL quarterback, average plus arm, probably below average mobility and things like that. And it just kind of never really fit. I think that, sometimes there's guys who, you look across sport and like, man, if you were in this different era, like you would have been the bee's knees, and I think that had Brad Kaya been born 10 years before, I think that he would have been a solid NFL starting quarterback for several years and then maybe a journeyman as a backup. But yeah, it just kind of didn't come together for him. I think it started with the medical diagnosis and then going forward. But yeah.
Falconer TRX, least number of wins Miami needs this year?
10 regular season minimum. A 9-3 regular season is a failure. And I saw that there was somebody at 247 Sports who predicted 9-3 and did it in a way that, like, honestly, this is not what happened. When I saw what the prediction was in my head canon, I saw this guy sitting at his desk or computer and said, what 3 games can I pick for Miami to lose that would piss Cameron James Underwood off the most? And then pick those as the 3 losses. Do you want to guess which 3 losses those were, Mark? If you look at the schedule?
He specifically went through the schedule. And,
he put the schedule
and went 9-3.
No, it was posted on Twitter. He put 9-3, but like, yeah, he picked 3 losses. I swear to God, What three would make Cam the most angry?
Florida State.
And?
Florida.
And?
They don't play Clemson.
This is niche for me, and I don't know why, but it is.
I'm pulling up their schedule right now because obviously they don't play everyone in the ACC. The other one that would really piss you off would be the most likely loss is at Louisville.
And that's 3. And those are the 3 games that this guy said Miami is going to lose this year on his prediction that he published in front of the world. I was telling a friend of mine, I was telling my boy Fred, if that were to come to pass, first of all, losing to both Florida and Florida State, especially this Florida team, and then Louisville, who, like I said, just gets under my skin in a way that, like, really doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know why they so trigger me. Like, I won't call him a friend, but like there's someone in my circle of acquaintances who like sometimes just says one thing and it just gets on my last goddamn nerve. And that is the Louisville Cardinals. And all the time, for no reason, like I have the same vitriol for them as I do Florida and Florida State. I don't know why, but I do. But this guy goes down and says 9-3 with those 3. I will rage. I will rage in such an epic way if that were to be the case. And 3 and again, there are not 3 good losses on this regular season schedule. And on top of that, we're going all in to get somewhere. Whether that's Charlotte for the ACC championship game and then potentially a playoff or we are not spending this money. Oh, sorry, not we. The Canes Connection NIL collective, right, is not spending this NIL money for no goddamn 9-3. We did not go out here and get no Cam Ward and then say, okay, in this window, spending to get the guys that we need to go compete for no goddamn 9-3. I will rage. And you lose to both of those teams in the state of Florida, and that then makes Florida State 4 in a row. So again, regardless of whatever else happens, right, and whatever else I've said, now that goes on however many 1,500 days, 1,700 days until we could potentially beat them, right? So again, who cares on how you're building the roster if you can't beat us? So would say the Florida State people, and then that I would rage. I'm not going to say 11 or 12 is the least number of wins, but it has to be 10 regular season. As the floor, it has to be. It has to be. There is nothing else that could possibly be acceptable at this point in time for the schedule. And as pillowy soft, Charmin soft as it is, the roster that we've built, the quarterback that we have coming back leading us this year and it has to be 10 regular season wins or more. I've said it so many times. This is a season where it has to come together. It has to. And now, whatever happens from there is what happens, right? Pretend that the Miami Hurricanes season trajectory, and I'm not wishing this on anybody, and I never wish for injuries. I hate them, and I will never, ever understand anybody who does. If our season has the same trajectory as 2023 Florida State, where we go into the final week, unfortunately, Cam Ward would sustain an injury where he's not able to go forward. Go and win the ACC championship game and then get left out of the playoff. You know what? It is what it is. And that would be a successful season with an all-time question of what could have happened had those injuries not been sustained. Because I know the Florida State fans feel the same way, where if they had not had injuries befall their team, what could have happened? That'll be a what if since forever. But like, the season is set up too well.
Can I alter your scenario just because the new college football playoff format guarantees that all conference champions will be in the playoff?
Well,
what if they're undefeated going into the conference championship game and they lose and Cam Ward's not available? That?
Again, it would be you would have to qualify it as a successful season, but it would have a sour taste in your mouth at the end, and it would be frustrating to not be at full strength or as close to full strength as possible towards a conclusion. But looking back, right, if we're here, 6 months from now, right? Well, not 6 because that's in the middle of the season, or 7 because that's the middle of the season. So 8 months from now in January, right? And say, okay, this team went 12-1, lost in the playoff. Cam got injured early, and nothing was the same, and we weren't able to get it together. And 11-1, 12-0 regular season plus an ACC championship, the first ever for the Miami Hurricanes, and all those things. Yes. It would have to be looked at as a successful season, even with not reaching what would be a reasonable ultimate goal of a national championship that would have been presenting itself as you go into the playoff. But yeah, on the other side, like again, 9-3 is unacceptable with this schedule. And don't let it be 10-2 and it be 2 ACC losses and you don't even make it to Charlotte. That's unacceptable. Like you have to. It's just an all-in season. Like I know that like I want to be pragmatic and like, well, things can happen, but like I'm just not even accepting that, things can happen or random acts of God. Like we just have to. This has to be the year. It's all there for us. It's there for the taking, especially with the roster, and that roster put up against the schedule that they will have to traverse for 4 months. It has to be this year. It really does.
Of course, understanding that 9-3 would be their best season since 2017.
Absolutely. And it still wouldn't be good enough for this team in this scenario that we're faced with this season.
Falconer, apparently the FSU show fan who wanted to go toe-to-toe with me didn't show up tonight. Of course he didn't.
Yeah, no, he got enough of that last week. He was like, oh no, what am I doing? No. I signed up for more than I can chew. Dude, to Falconer's last super chat, is ESPN trolling Miami with is the U back? Yes, they are. And no one is saying that. Okay, wait. Let me stop, because absolutes are things that I want to stay away from. I do not believe that any reasonable Miami fan is saying that Miami is back, because back is only determined with positive game results. Now, you can be optimistic and say, hey, we have potentially the best quarterback we've had since Ken Dorsey. So says Cam. We have a roster where we have guys who can play all over, and we have a schedule that on paper seems navigable. There are 2 bye weeks because this is a leap year, so you get the extra day in the season, and that so happens. So you get time to get healthy in the middle of the season, so you don't have a 4 weeks bye week and then 8 straight, which has been the ACC's standard mode of operations when they give a Miami Hurricanes schedule. So they can't even do that because there's the extra week. So, there's that's positive and things like that. Yeah, I believe all of those things to be true, but I do not believe that there's a reasonable Miami fan who is saying concretely the U is back. You know who is saying that, asks that? Rival fans and journalists. Oh, here they go saying the U is back. Okay, then, ESPN writes an article. Is the U back? Well, nobody's saying that. Nobody. I know that the players aren't saying it because they haven't been winning to the point where they would say that. You damn sure know that the coaches aren't saying it. Mario Cristobal with 2 national championships from his time as a player here. The U back? Is there a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback on the team right now? Are there college football Hall of Famers at multiple positions? Are there NFL Hall of Famers at multiple positions? Well, that can still be adjudicated, right? But like nobody, people asking that question just speaks to the level of impact that Miami has in the landscape of college football, because college football is better when the Miami Hurricanes are good. And if I take it to a different sport, what's really fun right now, and not my team, not my city. It is really fun that the New York Knicks are playing good basketball in the playoffs. The Madison Square Garden during a Knicks playoff game, I know that there's a lot of younger people probably watching this. Y'all have not seen something like that. When NBC used to have the NBA contract and they would always put those games at 1:00 on Sunday afternoon, woo, it was a moment. And you start to feel some of that because they've been waiting forever for anything like that. And you turn those games on that are in Madison Square Garden, and that bit is jumping. And it's like, yo, this is awesome. This is great. You feel the passion coming out of that. And I think the playoffs are better for that, right? I think that the same can be said for the University of Miami Hurricanes. If the Canes get to that level of success, it just permeates across the landscape in a different way. And you know how I know that that's true? Notre Dame 2017. And I hate that it's a singular data point. And actually, you can go the week before with the Virginia Tech game because that was an 8 p.m. ABC game also. But, I mean, you ask any college football fan worth their salt, hey, Miami Notre Dame in 2017. Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. That everybody knows, bro. And we want it to be that. And even if you're not a Hurricanes fan, deep down, because I'm not a Knicks fan, but it is fun seeing that building and that building jump like that and that team having that success. I think that's the same thing in the world of college football. So yeah, it's more on other people. What was the line from A Few Good Men? Deep down, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're in places that, are dark and by yourself, right? When you're alone with your thoughts, if you go deep down, you want the Miami Hurricanes in the top conversation in the world of college football. And there's so many outlets, and because everybody wants to be not right, but first. So it looks like Miami could potentially be building something. So is the U-back conversation comes up. Is the U-back? No. Are we building something that could potentially bear the kind of success that we've seldom had recently? Absolutely. But I'm excited to see where this team goes. And I mean, they're not necessarily trolling with that, but trying to get ahead of the narrative curve, I guess.
Good stuff. What a soliloquy out of Cam. And finally, from Falconer tonight, win over Florida State in Florida, but lose to Louisville?
Give me that. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look, I would still be upset, but if I had to make that trade any day of the week and twice on Sunday, brother, come on now.
Absolutely. Good show, good time. Appreciate everyone being here. Thank you for the contributions. Falconer TRX, you first and foremost, of course. Support us here at the Voice of College Football. Cam's here every Wednesday, folks. Bring a friend or two or 50 with you. And in the meantime, check out what Cam has available at State of the U.
Yeah, man, lots of good stuff. We have our 4's Up reviews from Justin DeTavio hitting. So going through seasons that ended in 4 and reviewing and recapping those and discussing. Craig T. Smith out there. I saw my boy Jake Marcus doing a couple of NFL draft recaps and everything. I know that I owe y'all some recruiting and team building stuff. I know. I will give it to you. I promise. Just got to bear with me a little bit longer and everything. But hey, we still have a lot of great stuff for you over at stateoftheu.com. Please come on over and fan with us. And hey, like Mark said, bring a friend, bring a couple friends next week. Wednesday, we'll be here hanging out, talking about the Canes, and hopefully leading towards a championship season. So, yeah. And hey, if you see me out somewhere like my boy Gibson did this week, come and say hey. But it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. I'm going to go have dinner. See you later.
Cam, thanks for making this what it is. We appreciate you. Have a great rest of your week. We will see everybody back here next Wednesday. Also, keep in mind that I just released ACC all-time program rankings. They're over on the main channel. I did leave the link here. You'll want to check those out. This is not somebody who just spitballs or makes things up. No. Winning percentage during the playoff era, during the 21st century, since 1970, NFL draft selections, first-round selections, All-American selections, Heisman trophies, all the award winners, both sides of the ball are tabulated, bowl wins, major bowl wins, AP poll rankings, top 5 finishes, 10 finishes, top 25 finishes, conference championships, natties, all of it analyzed here at the Voice of College Football. So check out that video again, ACC all-time program rankings. We'll see you next Wednesday.